Okay, good morning everyone. Thank you for joining us. It's an exciting day, it's an historic day. Let me start by acknowledging the traditional owners on the land in which we gather and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Let me also acknowledge we are joined today by four very excited clubs, four very excited future stars and players of an expanded NRLW competition. So let me start by acknowledging them. First of all, it's great to have the CEO of the Sharks here, Dino Mezzatesta. It's great to have the CEO of the West Tigers here as well, Justin. Thank you for joining us. And I want to acknowledge Nevada George from the West Tigers, Tallulah Tillett from the North Queensland Cowboys, Kayla Fleming from the Canberra Raiders, and Claudia Foster from the Cronulla Sutherland Sharks. Four excited faces, four excited female stars of an expanded competition. That's what we're here to talk about today. I want to also acknowledge the Commission, who have set the bold target of us accelerating the growth of females in our sport on and off the field, at a participation, at a pathways, and at an elite level. And even though today we're talking about the expansion of the Telstra Women's Premiership, it's also about the expansion of the role and influence of females in our game in all aspects, as leaders, as administrators, as fans, as volunteers, as coaches, as referees, and of course, as players. So this is a really exciting day. It's a goosebump moment for us all that work in the sport, because this is an opportunity for us to create a platform for the stars that are going to inspire a new generation of fans and athletes for our game, for rugby league. I also want to acknowledge the Commission's strategic focus on this and their investment in it. I want to acknowledge the clubs who have done a terrific job of putting together business cases that allow us to expand. And I also want to acknowledge the hardworking team at the NRL that have worked behind the scenes, and we're joined today by a number of them, Tane Drinkwater, Fiona, Brad Donald, and others that have contributed to ensuring we're able to be in a position today where we're talking about 10 teams playing in next year's competition. So that's really exciting. To talk a little bit about participation and pathways and elite, it's important to acknowledge the fact that at a junior grassroots level, we've gone, when the NRLW first started, we had 10,000 registered female athletes in our tackle program across the country. Today we have closer to 35,000. And that growth has been because of the stars that play on the field. And an expanded NRLW is linked to the impact of grassroots and the impact of providing more opportunities for women to play the game from under sixes all the way up. And I want to acknowledge the contribution that the clubs have played in that. And I'll come to that in a little bit later. From a pathways perspective, just last week we had 4 magnificent days on the Gold Coast playing the Harvey Norman Women's National Championships. Over 280 athletes from around the country in areas where there aren't necessarily traditional pathways getting together to showcase their talent. We played this competition last year and we had 21 players playing the NRLW this year. It is a wonderful breeding ground for developing talent. But not just athletes and players, importantly, coaches. We had 4 administrators transition to become assistant coaches or play a role in NRLW squads this season from just that 4-day week. It's also a great opportunity for us to develop referees as well, and we have an academy running through that program. So I want to acknowledge the fact that grassroots participation and pathways have to be in place before we talk about an expanded premiership, which we all enjoy watching and we all enjoy experiencing live. To the 4 clubs, I want to talk a little bit about the fact that geography played a huge part, as did the commitment of the clubs to invest, as did the commitment to the clubs to provide facilities and a pathway for females, not just on the field, but off the field as well. We've had unbelievable support from all the NRL clubs and interest in having an NRLW license. And so over the next couple of years, and even though today we're talking about 2023 and these 4 clubs, over the next couple of years, we're going to see even further expansion. And ultimately, the vision is for us to have a competition that has the same amount of men's teams and women's teams. But more importantly, today's announcement is about showcasing the fact that the West Tigers run a catchment area that goes from Concord all the way down to MacArthur and has a participation base of females playing the tackle program of around about 1,200 people, sorry, 1,700 registered participants. It's no different in the Shire. The Cronulla Sutherland Sharks junior football participation program for female athletes is well over close to 1,700 registered participants. We have about 1,200 in Canberra, and we have over 1,000 in Townsville or the broader North Queensland area. So from a geographic spread, if you just think of it that way, we have all the way from far North Queensland all the way down to Canberra represented. An opportunity for athletes and players to learn their trade, apply their trade, and reside in an area where they live and work, and obviously form part of their community. That's really exciting for the game. So investment at 3 levels, grassroots, pathways, and at elite. A huge commitment and strategic prioritisation from the Commission, a huge amount of excitement and investment from our clubs, and most importantly, we're creating opportunities for the future stars and the athletes who are joining us today. I'm very excited about not only the growth of the Premiership. Next year, when we think about the female elite calendar, it starts at All Stars. It runs through both the New South Wales and the Queensland state competition. It now has an 11-week Premiership. It has 2 state of origins and an opportunity for us to have an international program at the end of that where the best of the best can be represented in their countries. So there's a lot to look forward to and a lot to be excited about. I will pause there and see if you have any questions for me, or if you have any questions for the 4 players representing the 4 clubs that have been awarded their licence today. I thought I was going to get away with that. Yeah, so the Commission always left the door open based on the submissions of the clubs. And so while the original plan was to go from 6 to 8 to 10, an opportunity to have, from a geographic spread in terms of where we see actual participants, and then the quality of the proposals provided by our 4 clubs that are ready to go straight away, means that we could go from 6 to 10. So a combination of things, really strong participation and pathway programs, huge growth in participation, and a commitment for clubs that are ready in terms of facilities and in terms of existing infrastructure. Let me also use this as an opportunity to acknowledge a really important role that both broadcasters and partners and sponsors play in helping us accelerate this program. The fact that we have our NRLW on free-to-air, on 9 and on Fox Sports is huge for us, and the ratings are magnificent, and credit to the players and the clubs for such a compelling competition. But we wouldn't be able to accelerate this growth if we didn't have the investment and commitment, not just from the Commission and the clubs, but from our partners. And Telstra, as the naming rights partner for the Premiership, are right behind us around this accelerated program of expanding the number of teams. And obviously, as I spoke earlier about the Harvey Norman's Women's National Championships, which is incredibly important. So the short version, Fatima, is that we have seen a huge growth in participation numbers, and we saw some pretty compelling business cases by clubs that are ready to go from next year. That's not to say that we are not going to continue to expand in 2024. We're going to 10 teams early, and we're looking for further expansion in 2024 and onwards. And those clubs that submitted proposals to be ready from 2024, the next step for us is to engage with them and work with them to ensure that we can make that announcement as soon as possible.
What clubs submitted submissions for 2024?
Well, we've had strong interest from every single NRL club. It's a question of timing, and it's a question of when their program comes online. Some clubs are building centres of excellence, some are investing from the bottom up in terms of a grassroots participation. But we have really strong interest from a number of clubs that are looking like they'll be ready to go from 2024. I'm not going to talk about the privacy of clubs that have submitted and haven't submitted, because the truth is we're having an ongoing conversation with almost every club about what the next 5 years looks like for them. I'm pretty confident that we're going to be announcing a further expanded competition in 2024. And obviously, geography has played a key role in the influence around this announcement. We need to think strategically around geography going forwards as well.
Andrew, you've more or less doubled the professional playing football overnight. Do you feel like, to what extent is the talent going to go, the standard of the competition going to be diluted by having more teams? Would it not have been smarter to
It definitely wouldn't be smarter to go home away with the existing clubs, because I think we would have done that. The point being, we've done the analysis, we've done the data, and expansion is based on, I'll go back to the triangle that I spoke about originally. You need a base, then you need a pathways or an accelerated program to showcase talent. We now have 2 very successful, flourishing state competitions in both New South Wales and Queensland, and we have a women's national champs which covers the rest of Australia. The ability for us to develop talent has come through very strongly. So you've got baseline participation numbers growing, and then you've got talent development growing. And as a result of that, I mean, the numbers I spoke about earlier, you've got these clubs, each of them have catchments with over 1,000 players, up to almost 2,000 players playing tackle football. So we know we have enough athletes to sustain a professional competition. We're not doubling, we're going from 6 to 10, and we're doing so in a very staged and deliberate and strategic manner to ensure that we don't dilute the quality of the game on the field, and that's paramount. So this is quick, but it's no quicker than we believe we can produce in terms of a quality product. And that's, again, credit to the 4 clubs and the other clubs that are waiting in the wings and are eager to kind of roll out this framework, as I say, over the next 5 years. Yeah, so, sorry, just give me, I'll come back to you in a second. Oh, you want me to go here? Yeah. Total national participation is around 35,000. Yeah. Yes, when we first started the NRLW in the first year, it was around 10,000. So it's almost, it's not quite quadrupled, but it's gone up by about 3.5 times. Yeah.
And how will the 2022 season look in terms of your that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, we need to do a lot of that work, but essentially it's a 10-team competition. It'll take place over 11 weeks. So it'll have 9 rounds where everyone will play everyone once, semi-finals and a grand final. 100%. I mentioned earlier, really important that we have our partners behind us, and they are well and truly behind us. So we'll have Channel 9 and Fox Sports broadcasting all of the women's games. And when we think about the season structure and we think about location, we want to obviously think about the fact that many of the female athletes, some are becoming full-time professionals, some are semi-professional. So we need to think about their careers, and then we also need to think about our fans, and we want to maximize the exposure for what we believe is an unbelievable product.
There's going to be a salary cap in the 2022 season, obviously more teams and more games next year, so it's expected that salary cap will increase for that 2023 season?
Yes, absolutely. We want to see not just more female athletes contracted in a professional sense, but we also want to see them earning more from playing. So we expect growth, significant growth in the salary cap over the coming years.
Do you know what that growth is going to be for 2023?
We are working currently with the RLPA on an overall collective bargaining agreement, which will include both the men and the women. So that's obviously part of that discussion. But I'll go back to the word significant growth in the number of contracted players and significant growth in the salary cap and reward for our female athletes. And if I can just say one other thing, use this selfishly as an opportunity to just make sure when people make comparisons, like we unashamedly want to attract the best athletes in Australia. We know that some of that is in terms of what they earn, some of that is in terms of development and experience and development as athletes. We are committed to being really innovative around that. But when you think about what you can earn as a rugby league athlete, you need to think beyond just the contracted salary of a premiership, even though that's extending to 11 weeks. Rugby league is fortunate to have a number of points of difference. We have All-Stars, we have State of Origin, and we have the Jillaroos program. And so you have to look at it over holistically, an opportunity for us to now start to develop a 12-month calendar, which allows us to obviously reward and essentially pay athletes, not just for the premiership and the salary cap, but for all of those rep programs, which together, obviously, we want to try and make that as big as possible.
Is the expectation that, given all this expansion and the quality of the product, that you'll be able to attract some of the best athletes in the women's game from other sports?
Yeah, absolutely. So unashamedly, we want to think differently. Really important that we are developing talent from the bottom up within the rugby league program. What's our points of difference as rugby league? We've got touch, tag, and tackle. And we've seen some of our great NRLW stars come from the touch program originally. So we have a suite of products within rugby league that can develop talent. We've got clubs in wonderful communities where there's really strong participation within rugby league. But we know that there are some great athletes that haven't played rugby league as juniors, and we certainly are very keen on attracting the best athletes in Australia. Not just in Australia, but New Zealand and the Pacific and the international global nature of sport means that if there's an opportunity for us to bring athletes in from other sports, we absolutely want to think about that from an innovative perspective.
With that in mind, would you look to increase the marquee allowance that's currently there?
Yeah, we would look at a whole range of ways in which we might be able to incentivise athletes and allow clubs to provide an opportunity within reason, within parameters. Like our core focus is always going to be rewarding the rugby league community and our pathway program, but we'd be crazy not to consider ways in which we could lure athletes from other codes and from other countries within reason, within parameters into our competition for sure. And we've seen that already in this year's competition. We've had a number of athletes transition from other codes and been really successful.
Andrew, can I just come back to you on that kind of depth of talent point? I think everyone would agree that the best thing about the NRLW is how close it's been over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
It feels like anyone can win it. I think last year every team was in the race to the finals right until last week. We've had in 4 teams. I think the closest example would be the NRLW, where they did add a lot of teams at once, and they had a lot of scorelines. So I'm curious as to what extent you think you're going to be able to negate that, because that's just a natural thing of bringing everyone into the same way.
Yeah, I mean, look, a couple of things there. One is, credit to the Broncos who really set the pace for the first 3 years and were really hard to beat, and won 3 years in a row, which is terrific. And then we've seen teams catch up to the standard that they set early on. This year's competition was just magnificent, right? As you said, anyone could beat anyone, and the quality of the football from an entertainment perspective was quite remarkable. From going, and everyone said when we went from 4 to 6, whoa, what's going to happen? And we had 3 clubs enter because of the fact that the Warriors were unable to field the competition because of COVID and the restrictions of players not being able to play. So we had 3 new teams with relatively short notice, and all 3 of those teams were competitive. And I think from that perspective, the move from 4 to 6 was essentially 3 new teams. Now we're going from 6 to 10 with the benefit of our Pathways program, with the benefit of a number of years of the National Women's Championship, plus the State Cup competitions. I want to give credit to the fact that the State Cup competitions have been an excellent breeding ground for the development of talent. We are very comfortable that the fact that the teams that are entering have a very core base of participants that can play at that level, and then there'll be natural movement between clubs. But we're very comfortable that the quality won't be compromised. And we're going to have a 10-team competition that is now far more reaching, will require less relocation from players, and will be very competitive.
And just ask them, you mentioned the Warriors. Where did things get to with them? And you can't even really know how do I get to play this competition?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously being a very challenging time for the Warriors, and they've relocated their entire club to Australia now. This is the 3rd year. We're on the brink of getting them back home, which they're very excited about, we're very excited about. And for them, it's about rebuilding and consolidating their position back in New Zealand, and then thinking about re-entry into the NRLW, obviously, very soon thereafter. So the Warriors are very important for our competition, the men's and women's competition. It's very important for us to have that natural pathway in New Zealand, and they're obviously very much at the forefront of our plans going forward. But for next year's competition, those athletes that are based in New Zealand that would like to relocate, they'll certainly be supported by the NRL, they'll be supported by the clubs, and that pathway remains for them in the short term.
What's a realistic timeline when you're seeing every NRL club?
I don't have I'll be honest, I don't have the answer for that question. I can tell you what we're striving for. We're striving for a competition where we have an opportunity for female athletes to become professional in their community. So that's all clubs, right? That's the end goal here. Now, we won't rush that. The Commission are making this a strategic priority. So we are investing. We're investing in that triangle. So we're not going to rush the top of the pyramid without having the base built. To the point of the questions that have been asked around quality versus quantity. We are managing this as best as we can, and we're thinking about ways in which we can accelerate talent so that we have a competition that's played at the highest possible standard. I mean, it is a magnificent spectacle. The NRLW Telstra Premiership is just magnificent. We don't want that to be compromised, but we want to open up the passages for everyone. So I know I'm talking a lot, I'm not answering your question. The truth is, I don't know when, but we are going to go as fast as we can without compromising quality, and we have the support of our board and the commission, and we've got the buy-in from the clubs, and that's exciting. And obviously, again, our partners play a key role in that as well.
Obviously, adding 4 more teams creates a lot more competition for those top market players. What has been the reaction from the existing clubs?
Well, today's our announcement, so obviously the reaction will follow that. I think everyone is on board with what we're trying to achieve here. I think competition is healthy, and I think clubs know that in order to attract talent, whether it's men or women, whether it's administrators, you have to create a great environment. It's now up to the clubs to create that environment, to hold on to their talent or to attract talent. The salary cap also acts as an instrument that allows us to make sure that there is some form of talent equalisation. It's not perfect, but it's a good way of ensuring that there's talent spread equally. And within that, we need to obviously include incentives for clubs that are investing down the pathway as well. Yeah, we've been consulting with the players and obviously with the RLPA, and they've been a key part of this process. And I think I won't speak on behalf of the players. I'll let them speak freely as they want to, and I'm happy for you to ask questions if the players that are here want to talk as well. But I think everyone is excited about growth, and everyone is excited about an opportunity of representing a community that they might have grown up in or they might have always wanted to play for. And I think everyone's excited for a competition that has the rigour of 10 teams. So overwhelmingly positive.
Andrew, can I just ask, if I'm an 18-year-old girl in Townsville or Canberra or Sydney, when can I expect to be a full-time, fully professional, fully paid female athlete in NRL?
Yeah, I mean, that's again, it's like saying when will we have 17 teams and when will you'll get that threshold where you're able to be truly a full-time professional. I think at the moment we're starting to see for the first time ever the opportunity for those right at the top of their game to get to that level, because I spoke earlier about the length of the calendar and the rep program. And the rep program allowing for someone to earn, in addition to their contracted wage from the NRLW competition. So that will continue to grow. We're also thinking innovatively around how both the NRL, the clubs and our partners can create employment opportunities that allow for the flexibility to have a job that allows you to be almost a full-time athlete at the same time. And there are some good innovative ways in which we've been able to implement that program via the Marquee Player Program, and also looking at other ways in which the NRL can play a role in creating employment opportunities that are more attuned to aspiring to become ultimately a full-time professional athlete. I don't know when we are going to have every player being able to just play the NRL full-time, but I know that as we add more teams and as we have a competition that looks a lot closer to a 25-week competition like the men's competition, there's going to come a threshold point. And, the men's game has been around for, over 100 plus years. The women's game, the women have been playing rugby league for decades. And I want to pay respect to some of the pioneers that laid the foundation for where we are today. But in terms of having contracts and playing in a premiership, this has only been a couple of years. We've come a long way pretty quickly. We expect that level of growth to continue going forwards, both in terms of the number of players contracted, but also the salary cap and the opportunity to earn other benefits. Having a 12-month private medical insurance covered by the NRL and the clubs. All of these things help athletes to eventually transition to becoming full-time. I thought I wasn't going to get any questions. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. There's been a lot of pain and frustration when we had to postpone the competition from the 2021 competition I played earlier this year, but what a magnificent wait that was worth absolutely for. It's been a very difficult time for everyone, for fans, for businesses, for clubs, and obviously for players who've had to live in bubbles, had to wait for their competition to be played. So everyone has been I think, when you have something you love taken away from you, you love it even more. We're excited. We have crowds back. We're now talking about an expanded competition. We're talking about, getting back to what we love, and also a commission that's prepared to invest and make this happen a lot quicker. So it is very rewarding, exciting. This is an historic day, and I have goosebumps when I think about the opportunities this is going to provide, not just for players, but for women in our game at all levels, whether they be coaches, referees, leaders at the clubs, leaders at the NRL. Women are having a huge impact on our game for the positive, and that's not just football, that's everything. And that's really exciting for us. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. You're more than welcome to ask any questions of the players or the club officials as you like afterwards. But thank you for being here, and thanks to all 4 clubs as well who are represented here today. It's great to have you here, and what's obviously a really exciting time for us. Thank you.